The Clarity to Clients Roadmap, crafting and pricing an offer that sells itself. Now, this training is for you if you're a coach, consultant, or a facilitator that's great at what you do. You get results for your clients, but you might struggle to translate that into a commercial offering with consistent sales opportunities for that sustainable business that you want. So, whether you're established or just starting out, this training will help you design and price an offer that doesn't just showcase your expertise, but aligns with what your ideal clients are already searching for and what you're best placed to solve. But, real quickly, if you don't know me, hi, I'm Ped, and I've been designing learning and development programs since the year 2000 and set up my learning and development consultancy in 2011. In that time, I've sold programs into organizations large and small across sectors. Here are some of the more well known brands that I've worked with. And since the year 2022, I've launched three B2C offers. So, when it comes to talking about creating impactful programs and selling them, I have seen the good, the bad, and the ugly. And here is my business partner, Riley. He is a former mental performance coach and startup COO, and he was able to grow his last solo business from zero to $100,000 in 12 months by using, honestly, a lot of what I'm going to share with you in this video. So at this point, here is Riley in action. So at this point, we specialize in helping coaches, consultants, and facilitators to create more sales opportunities and design premium programming. So what we're going to cover in this training is the roadmap that we're here to talk about that helps you design and price offers that sell themselves, especially when you're starting out or creating something new, which might also include refining what you already sell. And along the way, I'm going to share with you the 5 mistakes that experts make that kill momentum or quietly undermine your credibility. We'll talk about the difference between program design and offer design and why knowing it separates a great service from a sellable one. We'll touch on the ingredients that make up an irresistible offer as it relates to our line of work, which will help you position yourself as the obvious choice, not just another option, and also the key to charging more while staying confident, credible, and in control. Now, a bit of a disclaimer. Much of what I'm going to share with you will likely feel familiar. And if you're like anything like our clients, the approach will really resonate. But what I'll do is show you a more strategic way to use what you probably already know so that it lands better, sells more easily, and helps you get traction with your business quicker. So, along the way, what I'll do is I'll share some key lessons and some proven tips that Riley and I have refined since 2023, working with over 100 people like you. So let's just start off with the basics then. When it comes to selling anything, people are going to be asking themselves, is this for me? What do I get? And why should I care? So before we dive into the roadmap, let's talk about and let's actually consider what makes or breaks a successful coaching, consulting, or facilitation practice. Because many experts will struggle for years without achieving tangible results, which can lead to frustration, burning out, and also maybe having to get a job again, which I don't know about you, is one of my biggest fears. And that is because they don't understand the foundational rule of leverage. That is to tap into desire. To sell anything, there must be something to leverage. Now, we talk about leverage because that's how we influence people, in a good way, of course. So, we've got to identify a strong desire. Otherwise, we can't build an offer, a business, or a livelihood around it. So, what desire are we talking about? Because this isn't about your desire, it's not about what you want, it's about what the market wants, or in other words, what your ideal clients want. Which leads us to the first mistake, which in fact we think of a bit more like a trap. And unfortunately, a lot of experts are especially vulnerable to make this mistake. And that is that they focus on what they can do to help the approaches, the theories, the methods, all the geeky framework stuff that we love. Or they might emphasize their personal skills and experience. Either way, this disrupts the moment that your potential client is asking, is this for me? And it stalls that buying journey. It undermines your leverage and it limits the ability to make the impact that you're here to create. So, why does this happen? Well, it's because of something called the curse of knowledge, and maybe you've heard about this. It's when you're so deep in your craft, it's easy to forget what it's like to be somebody that doesn't know what you know and the benefits of what you can offer. So, if empathy is one of your skills, you can use that to clarify what your ideal clients really want, which I know seems obvious, but there is a hidden trap even when we know this, and I'll reveal that when I share the roadmap. So, here's a roadmap. We call the Clarity to Clients roadmap because, from our experience, clarity sells and confusion stalls. And this roadmap clears the fog on both sides. You get clear on your offer, your ideal clients, and where to find them. They get clear on their problem, your value, and their decision. That's when the yeses start coming in. So, to design and price an offer that sells itself, we're going to focus on the bottom two parts. Now, we think of these as your compass and your map. So, let's start off with nail niche. It's already been highlighted there. And this is really your compass. And I know that the word niche can conjure up all sorts of feelings, especially for any proud generalists out there. But as solopreneurs or small business owners, you are responsible for your marketing, as well as all of the other functions in your business. And it's marketing's job to capture attention. And it's really hard to attract a bird without a worm or a bee without a flower. So, if you have the idea that cutting people out of your target audience will mean that you serve less people, you have to get rid of that idea now, because that's the second mistake experts make, trying to be all things to all people. And as the saying goes, if you try to sell to everyone, you sell to no one. A good way to reframe niching is that you are developing a specialist product for a target market. And I really want to emphasize this because you're not limiting your options. Because, like with anything in life or business, it can evolve over time. So you're not trapped in. And I know that because I've gone through this a bunch of times myself. But what is important is that you pick a direction of travel. It's important for your business and it's important for your productivity and well being. Because when you spread your attention across multiple opportunities, in my personal experience, at the best of times, I was just overwhelmed by the task switching and decision fatigue, and at the worst of times, I was totally burnt out. But more simply, you can make more progress designing one killer offering by focusing your limited resources, especially your time and energy, on one thing at a time. So, to do this, the first thing you're going to do, if you haven't already, is to go and identify an opportunity space to develop a niche offering for. Now, there are 9 considerations that we look at with our clients. We don't really have time to cover them all in this training session, but you want to lay out your options to help you decide which to pursue. And then the next part of the roadmap is to discover where to find your clients and build a list, as well as keeping that list organized in a CRM. Now, whilst technically this is not part of that design or pricing part of the process, this is one of those unsexy business fundamentals that I wish that somebody had told me sooner. You see, if you want predictable income, you need a clear targetable audience, a growing list of those potential clients, as well as a simple way to track where they are in the sales process. And we see so many solo experts rely on that magical referral fairy to keep them busy forever. And to be fair, I did too. And it worked for a while until it stopped with no warning, no fallback, just silence for 6 months. And that was back in 2019. And because of that, and I don't know about you, I'd rather know where my next client is coming from rather than hope somebody's going to send them my way. And this is what separates freelancers who get by from those who are much more entrepreneurial and build something that lasts. Like I said, this is not glamorous, but it's one of those things that makes the rest of your business much easier. And it's what great work is built on. Unfortunately, this is where a lot of us will flounder and give up, change tactics, or get dazzled by shiny object syndrome. But some top tips for you. This is not a one and done task. Our most successful clients make this part of the daily or weekly rhythm. Okay, back to designing and pricing your offer. So you've identified that opportunity space. You've got your direction of travel. The next stage is to develop an offer. And this is where mistake 3 comes in. Developing your offer in isolation. This is that hidden trap I was telling you about. where you design your offering based on what you think the market wants. We call this market value bias, and it is the number one reason why you might struggle to sell your offer. Because what so many people now go and do is design their programs, build their web pages, or even go out and try and pitch their services without having spoken to anyone beforehand. And this is despite being people oriented, maybe even knowing about design thinking or design sprints. And worryingly, I've seen business coaches reinforce this faulty thinking by telling you to brainstorm, research competitors, and put together a package you believe will sell. Maybe you've done this, or maybe you're thinking about doing it. If that's you, don't worry, I've done this too. But what if, instead of guessing, you could get insider information from your ideal clients before you ever designed or pitched an offer? And what if your ideal clients actually helped you create that offer so that it's pretty much guaranteed to sell itself? That's exactly what the develop offer phase is about. This is that map that helps you navigate between the opportunity space to the profitable offer. And the reason it works so well is because it's based on something that we call collaborative value creation. And the first thing you're going to go and do is to go and speak with your ideal clients. You're going to use the list that you made earlier and you're going to start contacting them. But this isn't about cold DMing them and saying, work with me. This is about initiating genuine conversations. So, some top tips for you: start with people that you know, ask them if they know anybody else, and extend the circle that way. This is how our client Anna Marie filled her pilot. And she also managed to triple the number of clients that she got in 4 months compared to the last 12 months. Now, we teach our clients an authentic outreach approach, but at its core, it's don't be a weirdo, start curious conversations, and if they're receptive and they seem like a good fit, invite them to have insider interviews or market research conversations. And this is where you're going to go ahead and collect the insider information, which leads me to mistake number 4. When you're talking to your ideal clients, try not asking them for feedback on a predefined idea. You are not doing that when you're collecting insider information or having these insider interviews. What you are doing is collecting insights, problems that they've got, and the pains associated with those problems, because these reveal direct costs and trigger urgency. You're going to ask them about the goals that they've got, along with the obstacles getting in the way. These reveal the opportunity costs that trigger aspiration and FOMO, both of which will help you price your offering, which we're going to come back to later. But I really want to make the case for the insider interview approach, because my favorite bit about it is that it is your secret weapon of getting sales, mostly because it's not so secret. You can hide in plain sight by asking people to answer some questions. And by doing so, you position yourself as a problem solver. So it not only gives you a legitimate reason to reach out, when someone agrees to an interview, when done well, they will feel like they're getting value from you. So you can simultaneously provide value, build a relationship with your target audience or your pipeline, and get that priceless information that you need to design a clear and compelling offer, as well as pricing it. It really is a win-win, and our clients love this approach because it does not feel icky and plays the relationship first instinct. And here is Sean talking about how pumped he was over the quality of the inputs that he got that's helping him convert that into an offer. Which means that when you have one of these conversations, when you finish the call, you can comfortably ask if it would be okay to loop back when you've developed something that could help them solve their problems. And because the offer is built with your ideal clients and for them, you make it much more likely and much easier for them to ask how they can work with you, which makes sales easier and more natural. But I know we're getting ahead of ourselves right now because we need to have a look at the last part of the develop offer phase, which is to create that clear and compelling offer. Now, there are two types of offers that we help our clients with. You can turn around to the last good fit person that you spoke to and put together a bespoke offer, or you can continue to speak to enough people until you hit saturation point of themes so you can develop a repeatable offer. This is the difference between what we call the fartlek approach, I know, funny name, but it's essentially a series of short sprints, and the marathon approach where you're building something sustainable in your business. So here at this point, what I want to do is talk about what an offer is and isn't, because there's often a misconception. And here's what a lot of people, including my past self, would get wrong. Because your offer is not your coaching session, your facilitated workshop, your training video, your service fees, or your guarantees. You don't deliver your offer, you deliver on your offer, because your offer is not a service, it's a promise. Your service is what you're selling, the thing that you give your clients, but your offer is how you present it, the package that convinces clients to buy. This distinction is important. Not knowing this is why we often feel frustrated when we know we have something of value to offer, but we struggle to get clients to see it. It's not because your service isn't good enough, it's because your offer wasn't clear or compelling enough. So, whilst your service or your product is essential, the offer is what actually convinces customers to buy. And that's the difference between offer design and program design. Now, speaking personally, I know it's very tempting to design your program, and we help our clients do this as well, the trainings, the workshops, the content. But if you want to build a business and have an impact, it has to start with sales. Offer design helps you sell. Program design is what helps create impact, which is where mistake number 5 comes in. Build it and they will come. Now, this is technically another manifestation of mistake number 3, developing your offer in isolation, but we keep seeing this again and again. Us experts want to design first. It feels safe, it feels productive, but it's often procrastination in disguise. So with that said, let's have a look at the components of an offer, because broadly they fit into 3 categories or 3 layers. The first layer is your core promise. Who's it for, the transformation they'll achieve, and why it matters to them. Now, you'll get these from your insider interviews. And this is from your client's perspective, because this will answer the question, is this for me? What do I get? And why should I care? Do you remember this woman from earlier? And the next natural question they will be asking is, well, how are you going to help me get there? And this is where layer number 2 comes in, your method, your process, the tools, the approach that you use. And there are so many creative ways to deliver on your promise. You can give your clients an experience, everything from done for you, done with you, to DIY. You can do things one-to-one, one-to-many. Also, you can do things synchronously or asynchronously. You can also give them resources that will help them implement what they are learning, so educational resources, and also engaging in the process as well, which leads us into the third layer of your offer, or what an offer is. This is your value amplifiers, bonuses, guarantees, urgencies, and other elements that increase desire and reduce risk. These are the elements that turn a strong offer into a no-brainer, which helps create momentum, trust, and perceived value. And now we've come to pricing, the final bit of this training. And to talk about pricing, we're going to give you a bonus mistake, charging for time instead of value. Because if you charge for time, you risk becoming a commodity. You're judged on price, and that's a race to the bottom. You're seen as replaceable and you can't stand out. However, when you charge for value, you become a trusted partner because you're paid for outcomes, not hours. And this helps you stand out in a sea of sameness. So, some top tips on making your offer valuable. The outcome of your promise needs to be tangible and meaningful. Now, in a B2B context, business to business, you're usually helping your clients practically do one of 2 things. Either make money through increased productivity, efficiency, or revenue, or save money by improving retention, reducing absenteeism, or lowering costs. And there's the emotional or aspirational components of achieving that with your clients, including status, confidence, and peace of mind. These are absolutely important, by the way. So if your offer isn't tied to making or saving money, it risks being seen as a nice to have instead of essential. This is why one-off training sessions are a dime a dozen. The outcome is knowledge and maybe the beginnings of skill development. You can absolutely make a case of its impact on the top or bottom line, but programs or consultations that contribute to a company's KPIs, key performance indicators, those are tangible and a potential client can see a clear return on investment. So you can charge more. Now, in a B2C context, business to consumer, making and saving money can be part of your service, but you're often working with outcomes related to personal ambition. And yet the same principles do apply. You're either helping reduce costs, things like stress, burnout, overwhelm, and wasted energy, and or increase gains, confidence and self-belief, clarity and direction, a more fulfilled and aligned life. So even if the outcome isn't measured on a balance sheet, it still has real-world costs when it's missing and real-world payoff when it's achieved, which means that when you anchor your pricing to that transformation, not the hours you put in, you stop selling sessions and start selling outcomes that people are willing to pay for. And so with that, we come to the end of our training. I'm going to leave you with some key takeaways. First one is that your clients don't care about your expertise, but they do care about the problems that you help them solve. Go ahead and co-create your offer for and with your ideal clients and price for outcomes and not services. And finally, remember, as experts, we might actually know what our clients need, but as business owners, we've got to sell what clients want and then give them what they need.